Since I moved to the United States at age 3, I have always been divided over my cultural identity. My left foot is firmly planted in my fatherland, Japan, and the other is undoubtedly settled on my motherland, the United States. If I lift one foot off, I lose my balance, and yet I often contemplate over my identity. Am I more Japanese or American? Amidst my wandering in the journey of self-discovery, I stumbled across the remarkable history of Japanese Americans. After the tragic bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, many Japanese Americans, whose faces exemplified those of the enemy, were persecuted and forced to live behind barbed wires for the 3 long years of World War II. And yet, these same Japanese Americans volunteered to fight in the United States Armed Forces against Japan and their allies. Why were these individuals willing to serve the country that discriminated and neglected their basic human rights? This question led me to meet Japanese American survivors of World War II and their descendants. Ms. Donna Cole is the founder and CEO for Oil Company, a philanthropic community member, and the daughter of George Fujimoto, a Japanese American who served in the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Though she was born 8 years after the end of the war, she celebrates her father's perseverance and courage during World War II and continues to pass on his legacy.
So I remember going to school, and when all the Army stories would come on TV, I would start to be getting bullied. So my saving grace through those times was my dad's, this book, his 442 Army album, because I had to prove that he was an American citizen and fought in the American Army, and that I too was an American citizen.
Ms. Cole's father, Mr. George Fujimoto, was born on January 13, 1920 in Colusa, California, and was raised in Alt, Colorado, where his family operated a sugar beet farm. He was drafted into the Army at age 22, and after basic training in Camp Robinson, Arkansas, transferred to Fort Riley, Kansas. Yet, discrimination towards Japanese Americans was conspicuous.
Treated so badly, he was given the worst jobs possible. And so when the president came to visit my dad's Fort Riley, Kansas, they gathered up the Japanese that were already there and put them in a barrack, and then they put guns on them while the president was walking through the barracks. And that's when these guys had decided, they don't trust us, and we're not welcome.
Learning that a segregated Japanese American battalion, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, was being formed, he requested for a transfer, in spite of the fact that he would have to undergo boot camp once more. Fujimoto was stationed in Alabama, wherein he served as a guard, watching over German officers captured in North Africa. When a German prisoner questioned why a German ally, was monitoring them, Fujimoto replied that he was an American.
I think the definition of being American is that freedom is how do you hold freedom and justice at the same time?
Japanese American soldiers like George Fujimoto helped move America in the right direction and engender understanding and compassion for those with dissimilar ethnic backgrounds.
I'm still sandwiched between my motherland and fatherland, but I now see this not as a weakness but as an opportunity and gift. I do not have to necessarily choose between my 2 homelands, for they are both loving and essential parents. I'm proud of being a Japanese American and, moreover, a citizen of the world.